This is where I would bury Stalin and murder her if I did it. Now all I have to do is roll her into the grave, cover it up, and make sure I take everything with me.
Yeah, I sort of wish there was that strong female lead.
Someone likable.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to Starburst about your new movie. I blame society is the kind of accusation that gets thrown around a lot by a lot of different people in different situations when they want to point the finger of responsibility to the wider world. What was it about that phrase that attracted you as to make it the title for your new film?
Well, the original title for the film was actually "I Murderer," because that was the title of the short documentary that this film grew out of. But you know, actually, when we started making the movie around 2018, it was kind of too close to I, Tanya. So also, you know, I thought that we could improve on it. So when I was asked to come up with another title, I Blame Society came to mind, and I don't know why. Eventually somebody pointed out to me in a great way. They were like, oh, you know, there's like a famous line of dialogue from Repo Man that references that. And I was like, oh yeah, well, that makes sense, because I fucking love that movie. I probably, you know, absorbed it into my being. But also, I think it's a good title for our film in the sense that it expresses the anger of the film. You know, expresses this kind of the energy that the film has of just rage and vitriol. But also I think it could, you know, often when you know, titles are so like kind of fluid and ambiguous. It's like, well, you know, who is this title? This title is expressing an idea from who? Like a character or the author or what? Marketing? You know, so I thought that this was interesting because I felt like I Blame Society was something that our main character would think, and in a way that was interesting and complex and problematic, because she shouldn't. You know, she should blame society, but she also should blame herself for a lot of the shit that happens in the movie. You know, she has responsibility and she doesn't take it. So I think that kind of like multivalence in the voice of the title, and it's pointing to its main character's both like righteous anger and personal culpability was interesting. I'm reading a lot into 3 words, but that's where it came from.
So can you give us a little bit of a flavor of what the movie is about?
It's about this female filmmaker, and she is struggling to get her first feature made. And she, you know, comes from like a promising background of, you know, she had some successful shorts, but she's just having trouble with like people, you know, believing that she can, you know, they should give her $1 million, you know, to make a first feature, all while she's kind of watching that same level of scrutiny not be leveled at her male peers. So a couple things happen, you know, like she feels she gets fired by her manager. She kind of reaches this strained relationship, you know, with her boyfriend, with feeling like he doesn't believe in her. And then this kind of precipitates a mental break with her when she accidentally kills her best friend. Accidentally in quotation marks, you know, kind of brinksmanship, kills her best friend. And so this kind of makes her crack. So she kind of takes this abandoned project that she had of a documentary about, based on a compliment that she would make a good murderer, and takes that as a jumping off point to finish the documentary by actually killing people. And it's kind of this expression of needing to show that she can finish something, that she can execute something, that she's worthy of people's faith in her ability to complete a project and do it really, really well. It doesn't matter whether it's making a movie or crafting a great body of serial killing. Like just that idea that she is competent and talented and worthy of validation that's what's important to her.
Okay, so the character you play is a filmmaker frustrated at every turn by gatekeepers and by people who refuse to acknowledge and recognize her talent and potential. You have to ask in a situation like this, how much of this is based on autobiographical experience? Is this a place that you've been yourself?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of the film that is drawn from my life, but I also am not unique. There are lots of female filmmakers out there who face barriers to entry that male filmmakers don't. You know, you look at there are great female directors who are still just stuck at the short stage, even though they've done brilliant award-winning shorts. And you know, it's just these gatekeepers find any reason to say no to them. And then there are guys out there who've, you know, done very little, you know, maybe an ad here or there and made like one great deck, and they give them $10 million. And it happens so often that it's not a coincidence, and it's not reflective, I'd say, on the differences between the filmmakers. It has something to do with the people who are in charge of giving the money and what they're able to envision as the kind of person that they give money to. You know, it's kind of that famous story of, you know, this young up and coming director who came out of Sundance with a great low budget film, and Steven Spielberg giving that guy, like, you know, a lot of opportunities because he said he reminded him of a young version of himself. And so if all of the gatekeepers are, you know, older men, they don't look at women or people of color or you know, LGBTQ identifying people and see themselves. And that's the problem. And, you know, you know, even though we're in a very like late stage of capitalism, there's still a lot of people going with their gut on where they're giving their money. And so I don't know, basically we need to like fix capitalism and make it even more efficient market mechanism where human behavior isn't getting in the way. Or we could just abolish capitalism altogether. I mean, either is okay with me. You know, I just think that what needs to happen is, you know, the real meritocracy that everybody says that we have needs to actually exist. And it can't until we fix some of those things.
I mean, to pick up on that, I mean, I Blame Society is a very subversive horror film in lots of different ways. It's been widely described as a feminist horror film. Is that a label you've embraced? Do you want to be known as a feminist filmmaker, as a filmmaker? How do you feel about that association with your work?
I'm totally okay with it. I think that we've moved past the point as a society where feminist is a slur. So I think that it's totally fine with me. And I also think that we've moved past a place where feminist art feels like taking your vitamins. Where it feels like, oh, you have to watch this, like, you know, you just do, like, it's good for you. We are actually showing that films that have subversive ideology are effective entertainment. They are just funny or gross or hot or whatever, you know, they are movies, and whatever is contained in them, as long as it's done well, they can be effective as films too. You know, there certainly are plenty of social issue films that are a fucking pain to sit through and uncomfortable, but there are also a shit ton of awful action movies that feel that, you know, also like a chore to sit through as well. A good movie is a good movie.
I mean, in the guise of your character, as your character reflects themselves, the film has a strong female lead, but much more than that. Throughout the film, there's the female gaze. The female perspective is so strong, and it's in a genre in which that's not often the case, whether it's matters of death, matters of sex. Often female characters are ones to whom things are done. Things happen to them. They are the object which other subjects impact on. But your approach is completely different here. And it's not just in that lead characterization, but it kind of is present throughout the whole film. The gaze is a female gaze. That's obviously a very conscious choice.
Absolutely. I'm really glad that you noticed that and appreciated that. Not only is it, not only do we have a female director, we also had a female DP and who did all of the operating as well. So it's very front to back, a female gaze. Also the conceit that it's a female character who's filming herself, it makes it that way too. I mean, it's really interesting that you bring up that, horror in a lot of ways is lagging behind making space for women. And there's a lot of lip service to that idea in the horror community. And actually, I think horror journalists do the best job of anybody of all of the different spaces in the horror community. Horror journalists are great at advocating for women. It's funny, I was talking with a friend who teaches at Northwestern, and he wanted to put my film on a double bill. And he was like, what else should I show my students when I show your film? And the film that I picked was I think it's a horror film. I think a lot of people would agree, but maybe not some like total gorehound horror fans. But I was like, I think you should show it with Lynn Stopkowicz's Kissed. You remember that movie? Mm-hmm. The Molly Parker film? Yeah. So because I see a lot, it's funny, I hadn't seen that movie when I made the film, but I saw it like a few years later. I made a weird double bill for myself of Kissed and the Stendhal syndrome. And I was like, this is it. This is the compendium of female experience in like 2 movies. Done. I think that the main character and her agency in Kissed is very similar in a way to the main character and her agency in I Blame Society, in the sense of having a very unorthodox goal that is very like clearly psychologically motivated and portrayed by the filmmaker in a way that just kind of accepts her desires and accepts what you're watching as, likable enough or, worthy of watching. And I think I think we need more films like that from women, films that feel personal and problematic like that.
I mean, one of the ways that comes out, one of the really powerful things about the film is the way that it invites the audience to feel conflicted about their reactions to what's happening on screen. A scene can be really funny, but also really disturbing and really alarming at the same time. And again, that seems to be a really clear intention in the film's narrative, not to make the audience feel comfortable about this at all.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, there are definitely lots of other movies out there that you can go to where you just are like, I need a proxy and I just need to, live vicariously through this person. That would be an uncomfortable experience with this character. She is not there for you to just kind of unthinkingly live through her choices. But I do encourage people to feel a catharsis and feel a release from some of her actions and a lot of her anger. I think that we don't talk enough about the cleansing power of anger and the cleansing power of rage to precipitate changes, to denormalize things that we've taken for granted and have just become conditioned to in terms of just greater social abuse. We need to like get angry again. Make America angry again. That's what I'm running on.
And one of the really nice innovative things about this is that your lead character is actually quite difficult to empathize with. She takes her frustration out on those who don't deserve it, as well as those who, you might think do. As you've conceived it, I mean, do you think that character is a psychopath, a sociopath, someone who's alienated from the world? How do you view her?
I mean, I think that she is, are really a product of her conditions. I think that she is a narcissist, but somebody who has been encouraged and rewarded for being a narcissist. Ask any filmmaker, and that's exactly the situation that you live in. For, putting yourself first, believing in yourself to the detriment of, other people's criticism of you. It's kind of a neurotic and dissociative place to be living from, but one that's also validated and valorized all the time. So I think she's got problems, but I think that she was made that way. I think that in a way, there's a certain sad inevitability to what happens.
Sure. I mean, the way the film is shot also has an intimate quality to it, in the sense that the audience is kind of invited to feel they're coming along as kind of an accomplice to kind of the killing spree. That sense of intimacy seems to be really integral to the film. This is not a distant action film, but something that pulls the audience in to feel they're in the room.
Yeah, and that makes some people feel uncomfortable, and makes some people feel affection for Gillian. The ones who feel uncomfortable, they don't like their complicity being challenged or drawn in or pointed out. But other people connect with her. I think that if you're an outsider, if you've ever been treated like an outsider, you understand what she's going through. And I think you can kind of separate things and so that you can feel the pleasure and the catharsis of what she does without feeling personally responsible. And I mean, that's how I feel when I watch films with complicated lead characters. I enjoy identifying with them. I enjoy being in their shoes, even as they do something awful. I think that that's healthy, and that's what art is there for.
I mean, to go back to what you started with about the persistence still of male gatekeepers in the industry, not giving opportunities to young female filmmaking talent. How do you think we can unpick that? How do we make the spaces for those young female filmmakers to come through?
It's hard. I mean, I think it's interesting that, the Me Too movement was certainly an attempt at that, an attempt to kind of root out problematic men. And I think that, it's sad and telling that when you look at the statistics now versus before the Me Too movement, the percentage of female filmmakers who are working has not changed. It's even gotten a little worse. I don't think that it's a problem that can be solved on an individual level. And it's interesting, I don't even know if like quotas are effective either. I guess I'm not the greatest, I wish that I did have solutions, because I would tell people what to do, but I can instead, I can only just express my frustration and kind of try and get people to empathize and feel where I'm coming from. But also I think, it's the film, if people enjoy it and it's successful, then it kind of guides by example of providing an antithesis for the kind of films that current male gatekeepers are asking for from women. They're asking women to create films that are solely defined by their female subjectivity. I think it's a very destructive thing to be like, oh sure, we'll give you money to make a movie as long as it's about your ladiness, as long as it's about abortion or sex trafficking or domestic violence. Also, it's of course, those problems don't just happen to women. It's kind of defining women by their womenness, and defining any kind of group by their intrinsic identity is so dehumanizing, because it acts like they're just limited to those aspects. Whereas I think we can look at examples from all over of films from women and people of color and LGBTQ people that show that their takes on genre and on things that have nothing to do with their personal lived experiences are every bit as entertaining as films that are made by, the normalized straight white male. So yeah, I think that the best thing that we can do is just let women and group and other groups like make the films that they want to make, and you'll be pleasantly surprised how fucking great they are,
Okay, I think I Blame Society is a great contribution to that struggle. That's our time today. Great to talk with you. It's a great film. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you, Rich. I really appreciate it.
I would walk people through how I would commit the perfect murder.
You my scary girl?
I'm scouting locations for the next scene of the film. Ground floor apartment, perfect. I'll come back later when it's time to complete the next step, breaking and entering when the occupant is home. Lean in, baby.
Murder is probably not realistically depicted on television, so I would do some Googling first.
All the best serial killers are unpredictable. They look at the criminal profile they're forming, and they strike outside of it. I could unwittingly reveal too much about myself psychologically by my choice of targets. It's pretty clever, right?
There's no movie that is worth hurting someone for.
There are just real benefits to killing a bad person. If you get a good movie out of it, that's an additional advantage. I'm so good at murdering, it just sucks that I can't get the credit for it. You're not gonna stop me. You can't anticipate me. You can't predict me.